There are a lot of bad feelings after a tough loss like the Chargers suffered to the Chiefs, but there is one great silver lining that came from that game, and that is that Derwin James is officially back.
You are Locked On Chargers, your daily podcast on the Los Angeles Chargers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, and welcome into the Locked On Chargers podcast. I'm your host, Daniel Wade, joined as always by my co-host, David Drogemeyer, and we've been covering the Chargers together now for 9 seasons, but this is our 7th year as the host of the Locked On Chargers podcast, bringing you your team every day. Thank you, as always, to the everydayers out there for making us your first listen. To make sure that you never miss the show, go subscribe or follow for free on the Locked On Chargers YouTube channel and listen wherever you get your podcast from. David, what do we got today?
Well, Daniel, one of the things that defensive coordinator Jesse Minter wanted to make sure to accomplish this season was reestablishing Derwin James as the best safety in the NFL. And over the last 6 or 7 games, it seems like it's heading towards mission accomplished. And better days ahead for the Chargers offense. It's going to get better, might not be right away. And can Quinton Johnston get to 10 touchdowns? I think it is very possible.
Oh, you're buying that. It is Buy or Sell Tuesday, getting into the biggest Charger storylines and overreactions. But this episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use the code lowercase all LockedOnNFL to win $50 instantly when you play just $5. And David, the buy or sell has to start right there. And the buy or sell is this: buy or sell, Derwin James is back.
Yes, he is. Derwin James is fantastic, and it's great to see him being put back in a position to do what he does best. And I think one of the things that Jesse Minter has done is simplify what you want Derwin James to do and get him closer to the football. You've been seeing Derwin James close to the line of scrimmage where he can show that explosion, those great instincts, and that uncanny ability to go see the hole and hit it. He's been fantastic. 5 of the last 6 games, Derwin James has had a defensive grade over 70, including one over 80 and one over 90. Also has 4 sacks on the season. Derwin James is starting to fill up the stat sheet and do some of the things that you expect the all-world safety to do.
Absolutely, man. And it's so cool to see because a lot of people gave up on this dude. Fact, right? That's what happened. Yeah. And through all of it, right, he stayed the heart and soul of this team. And I think one of the more impressive things is just the fact that he got suspended early in this season for a big hit. And that could have really tempered what we saw from him, right? Made him kind of take a half step to make sure he's hitting the right spots. But like, it just doesn't seem like it's affected him at all. And it seems like over the last, like you said, 6 games, 7 games, it's been really good, but the last couple of games, you're seeing the splash plays, right? You're seeing the pick against the Falcons to seal that game. You're seeing the sack show up in the sack column now, which is always kind of what has separated him, just his ability to be able to get in there and just cause havoc as an athlete off the edge. Violently. And just a ferocity that you don't get from many defensive backs or maybe any other defensive back in the league. And I think the big credit does go to Jesse Minter, who, instead of like Brandon Staley did, using him to kind of trying to cover up all the deficiencies of your defense, is using him in the ways that he's best used. And what do you know? That's helping the defense as a whole. And I do think that another big kind of shout out goes to a Joe Ortiz, who put together a good enough defense around Derwin James where he doesn't always have to wear so many hats, and you're not worried about him covering up other guys' mistakes. So I think that all goes into it. But David, seeing him and what he did to Travis Kelce in that game, it was very clear to me, okay, this dude is all the way back right now.
Hey, even Kay Adams put it out there. Whenever it's Derwin James versus Travis Kelce, it is appointment television. And Derwin James absolutely strapped Travis Kelce up. This right here is from Daniel Popper of The Athletic. Travis Kelce ran 10 routes against man coverage last night. He did not have a catch on any of those snaps. I wonder who was the one covering. Oh, of course, that was Derwin James completely locking him up. They didn't even look his way when Derwin James was covering Travis Kelce, which another point obviously he made, which makes it a little bit mind-numbing that on that last play, that unfortunately Deion Henley wasn't able to get to Patrick Mahomes.
Shout out San Diego.
That you went in a zone coverage look instead of a man-to-man coverage look against, one of the most important offensive pieces that they have, and the guy that you have to make sure that you don't beat them. Derwin James locked him up all game long, and the one time you need him to do it again, he's not in position to do so.
Well, let's be honest, right? Travis Kelce has got his, fair share of wins against Derwin, especially recently. So for Derwin to have that game and to just literally put the straps on him and make like an Athir bold prediction almost come through because he held him to like 45 yards, which is what he said. Didn't do other crazy stuff, but did that. Like, that is nuts. Like, and to see him do that was just, I loved what I saw from him against the Falcons. He was undoubtedly the 2 tackles for loss, the pick at the end. He was a huge impact player. But to see this now and to see where he's at this point in the season for a defense that's already playing extremely well, I think the arrow is pointing up. But I think one thing he would love to see is the Chiefs again. And I think that's where this next caller comes in because, hey, is it crazy to want to see him again?
Hi, this is Mike. I'm in Missouri, which means I'm in misery after last night's game. And the beat goes on, 2 points, 1 point, 3 points, etc. My only good thought is if we meet them for a third time in the playoffs, maybe, just maybe, there were some strategies and tactics that were not employed in the regular season, and that would be amazing. Anyway, we'll keep watching. They're better than they were last year, but having to watch the Chiefs succeed again is tough. You guys keep up the good work. Talk to you later. Bye.
I always feel especially bad for our fans, everydayers that we have. I think 2 of them calling in from Missouri today. So definitely misery over there. I think, David, first let's address that, right? Like potentially keeping something in the bank for a potential playoff matchup down the road. I would sell that. Yeah. I just think that for me, it's my opinion, right? And sure, coaches do hold some things back, especially in preseason, things like that. But in a game of this magnitude, if you're holding anything back and not doing every single thing you can to win, I think that's a disservice to your team. It doesn't mean that you won't have a better strategy the next time you go. It doesn't mean that, hey, maybe you found some things in that second half offensively that can work, right, against them. There's other great ways that you can use these 2 games as experience to beat them the third time. But I think the more interesting buy or sell is this, David. Buy or sell, the Chargers should want to see the Chiefs if they make it to the playoffs.
I mean, I understand, and hey, I've said it in the past that I wanted to smoke against the Chiefs. Not anymore. Okay, I don't really want the smoke anymore.
How you get that?
They've already shown such a propensity to win. No, I'm going to sell it. I want the path to least resistance. I don't really care at this point. You got to take it to the dance and then see what happens, right? That's what it's all about. And hey, is it selfish of me to say that I don't want to face the team that has won the last 2 Super Bowl championships? No, I don't think so.
No, you're not
I want
crazy.
someone else to do the dirty work and take the Chiefs out so that we can go play against somebody else and try to get to the big dance. No, I don't want to play the Chiefs again. Do I feel confident that the Chargers can beat the Chiefs? Yes, which I think is obviously a little insane after them losing twice, but they have not seen the Chargers at full strength at any point, no matter when they've played them. So I feel like they can, but I don't necessarily want to play the Chiefs again.
And that makes you a totally sane person. And it makes me kind of a sicko because I'm buying it. I absolutely want to see the Chiefs. I want to be, this is the only time you can put an end to the dynasty, right? Hopefully they're not winning again and you're trying to stop them from a 4-peat next year, which I just had that nightmare scenario play in my head and I didn't think about it. But I think it's in order. Your goals this season, win the Super Bowl, number 1, hands down. And obviously, if you can pick your path, you pick the easiest path. Second, not close behind that, but the next best thing, knocking the Chiefs off and ending that.
It would feel pretty sweet.
That's easily, to me, the second best thing that can happen to the Chargers. This is kind of a house money season for the Chargers. This is an ahead of schedule Chargers team. Yeah. If what you can get out of this is making it deep enough into the playoffs and getting to face the Chiefs, because they're going to have a first-round bye more than likely, and you're the one that knocks them out, not only does that mean you're playing in an AFC championship game, right, but it means you did what nobody thought could be done, which is beat this team who finds every single way to win. So sign me up. I'm a sicko. I'm buying it. Give me the Chiefs again. And I think with Alan McConkey potentially, with the J.K. Dobbins, you have your tackles, a healthy Justin Herbert. I think they get it done the third time. I think it's hard to beat a team 3 times in a season. I think the Chargers would prove that against the Chiefs. But the offense would have to continue to be good. And that's what we're going to be talking about is, can the Chargers continue what they did in that second half in this last game? Was it a fluke? And also just, David, looking at the macro, which is the Chargers offense, this is probably the worst it's ever going to be under Jim Harbaugh. So we're talking about all that and more in today's Locked On Chargers podcast. First, I need to tell you guys about IceShakers. I know you're like me and your holiday shopping list is, let's just say, far from complete. Well, if that's the case, I've got the perfect gift for you, the passionate sports fans in your life, and perhaps you've heard of IceShaker. IceShaker is now officially licensed with the NFL, NHL, NBA, NCAA, and MLB, and it'll make the ideal gift. Such an easy gift for any Chargers fan especially. I mean, look at this thing. For those on YouTube, I have a Los Angeles Chargers branded IceShaker, and it's created by and used by the Gronkowski brothers. I know Chris Gronkowski, former Charger, was on Shark Tank with it. And it's not just your typical shaker, right? This is kitchen grade stainless steel bottles that won't absorb odor like the bad plastic bottles that some people use. And it also has the patented twist-in agitator, which not only helps you shake up whatever protein you want, but it also makes a great drink strainer for if you're mixing up drinks at the tailgate. And the agitator is really, really awesome, and I think really sets it apart. And you can order your team-branded bottles today at IceShakers.com and use the code LOCKEDONNFL for 25% off your order. IceShakers, show your support for your team with the best branded workout bottles in the market, IceShakers. I also need to tell you guys about PrizePicks, because PrizePicks is the #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members, and it's also the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy, because unlike on other apps, on PrizePicks, it's just you versus the numbers. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. And I have great news for you, because today is Taco Tuesday. PrizePicks offers great weekly promotions like Taco Tuesday, where PrizePicks discounts select player projections up to 25% to provide even more value for your lineups, and you can win 100 times your money on PrizePicks with as little as 4 correct picks. And PrizePicks is also the best way to get action in most states, including California, Texas, and Georgia. You can get on the action on Thursday night. All you have to do is this: Matthew Stafford more than or less than 249.5 passing yards, and Puka Nacua more than or less than 84.5 receiving yards. If you hit on those, it's that simple, and you win. Download the PrizePicks app today and use the code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 instantly when you play just $5. That's code LOCKEDONNFL on PrizePicks to get $50 instantly when you play $5, and you don't even need to win to get the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. PrizePicks, run your game. David, we have some more great Chargers buy or sells, getting into the biggest storylines and overreactions. We know there's plenty of them flying around, because one of them was Justin Herbert not being clutch after leading a go-ahead drive against the Chiefs and never getting the ball back.
Miss me with that nonsense.
The last time that I know we're not even going to entertain that, except for me entertaining it right now, because the last time he had a chance to go win a game was against the Bengals, and they won the game. Not going to even say any other word about that today, because I want to talk about this Chargers offense and kind of how bright the future looks, because I know people are frustrated with getting shut out in the first half in the last game, shut out in the second half against the Falcons, shut out in way too many halves, right? Greg Roman, obviously, I understand the frustrations with him, but I do want to, I think it's important, though, David, to look at the big picture sometime, and that's where this one comes from Paul Koo, who says, buy or sell with 2 top-tier tackles, an elite quarterback, an outstanding rookie wide receiver. This is the worst the offense we will ever see under Jim Harbaugh. The future is bright. You buying or selling that?
I'm 1,000% buying it. I think this offseason, the Chargers and the front office, Jim Harbaugh, Joe Ortiz, they did what they could, right? You know, they had to kind of go to the thrift store. They had to go dumpster diving a little bit and try to find some players that were a little bit down on their luck and try to give them an opportunity to kind of flip their fortunes a little bit. Some of them have taken the bull by the horns and really have established themselves again in this league. Guys like Poona Ford, guys like J.K. Dobbins, coming back from injuries and have really, really shined, with the Chargers. And that's what the Chargers had to do. They had to overcome a huge cap situation to be able to try to bring some players in. And that's not going to be the case after this season. Okay. They were negative 60 million. They're about to be plus 77 plus million in cap space. And if they make one move, which is probably Joey Bosa, that'll get them close to $100 million in cap space. So they had to get the players and pieces that they could get in the offseason before the season. Now they're going to be able to get the players that they want to get. And there's not going to be really any player that's going to be out of their reach with the resources that they're going to have available in free agency and in the draft, where they should have all their draft picks plus multiple comp picks as well.
Yeah, I would echo all that. And I mean, they put together a roster this year that's 8-5 while being hamstrung in that bad salary cap situation.
Yeah.
I just think that the draft success that Joe Ortiz had gives you such great hope for what they can do. I mean, look at just the impact players he was able to add in one offseason where he started off $60 million over the cap. We're talking about 10 plus players in one offseason with no cap space. Joe Alt, Ladd McConkey, Cam Hart, Tarheeb Still, Christian Fulton, Will Dissly, Elijah Molden, Poona Ford, Denzel Perryman. Like, I could keep going on and on and on. That's just the guys who are playing exceptionally well at their positions and kind of overproducing. Not only, guys like a Bradley Bozeman who started every game for you this season, right? But maybe hasn't played as well. Like, there were some misses, but undoubtedly there were way, way more hits. And that's what he was able to do when he was really, really strapped. So I think that gives you huge confidence because we know this offense is flawed, right? They need another receiver. They need two offensive linemen. They need a pass catching tight end. Unless maybe Stone Smartt just emerges into that guy. We're talking about that later. But I do want to get to this one from Justin Sisyphus Herbert, which is funny because Sisyphus is the Greek god, I believe, of pushing the rock up the hill over and over again and having it come down. So that does kind of sound like Justin Herbert's life right now. But the buy or sell is this. The Chargers' second half offensive performance was not a fluke. David, to me, I'm buying it because I think really the only fluky thing about the Chargers' second half performance is probably the QJPI. Probably not going to get a 40-yard penalty, but I mean, he earned it. It was a definite mass interference. But like, that's the only thing that doesn't seem maybe replicable on a game-to-game basis. But I do think there's a lot of takeaways they could take away from that second half, especially doing it without Ladd McConkey and say, hey, we found something here that we can continue going forward.
Yeah, I think with this situation, I'm going to sell it for now. I like
That's
the fact that they had to face the adversity and were forced to kind of figure it out with the pieces that they had. I do feel like that was very important for them. And hey, they scored 17 points in the second half, which is great, but they hadn't done it in 7 games before that. So for me to be a full-on believer, I just need more consistency. You're going to have to show me in another game, and then I'm going to start believing a whole lot more after you show me you can do it more. Because, hey, this is it, right? This is the part of the season where you want to be playing your best football. You want to start peaking. You want to go out there and put your best foot forward so that way when you get into the playoffs, you're going full steam ahead, all systems go, let's go get it done.
I guess the part I would agree with you on there is this team will go as far as their pass protection will take them. And in this last game, they allowed less than 10 pressures. Their offensive line pass protection unit did, right? And that's with kind of a couple of, poor games from some guys, right?
Yeah.
So, like, it's pretty incredible that that's what the numbers ended up being. And that's what I think it's like, hey, yeah, the pass rush could totally dominate them in the next game. And maybe that hurts what they want to do offensively. Maybe they have more penalties and things like that. But there wasn't much about that second half that doesn't seem replicable for the Chargers, especially if you're adding Ladd McConkey. If you can add Ladd McConkey onto what you did in that second half, which isn't always as easy said than done, right?
Yeah.
I think you have something. And I think even though the Chargers hadn't scored that much in the second half, I mean, going into that last game against the Falcons, right, they'd at least scored 23 in 5+ games in a row, which is not something we saw the first, 5 weeks of the season at all.
Yeah.
So hopefully it's something, but I don't blame you at all for wanting to see a little bit more, that's for sure. But let's get to this one here from Rezel Azir, who says, buy or sell, Quinton Johnston will be the first Chargers wide receiver since Mike Williams to have double-digit touchdowns in a season. David, 7 touchdowns, 4 games remaining. Do you think he hits double digits?
Yeah, I think he does. I think he does hit double digits in this season. I mean, say what you want about Quinton Johnston and his struggles this year. The one thing that he has shown a propensity to do is get in the end zone. He scored in 6 of the 11 games that he's played so far this season. I just think that, he knows how to get there. He's familiar with it. Justin Herbert trusts him in that area of the field. He's looking for him. And if he's open, he's going to hit him. And I just think Quinton Johnston, after that game, can really build off of that performance and hopefully propel him into being a functioning and very productive member of this Chargers offense throughout the rest of this season.
One of the more awesome things I saw from that game, as many things that, as much as anything can be awesome in a game that you lose like that, was Quinton Johnston standing over a defensive back in the end zone after he caught his touchdown pass. Like, that just showed me so much about kind of how much his confidence has improved since that drop. And for him to come back and make that impact, we talked about it a little bit yesterday, to make the catches he made, the contested catches he made, man, I just think it's a great sign. And I think for him, it'll be like, hey, you're probably going to have another drop this season. How do you not let it get back to that dark place again? But if he's on, man, I think he could do it. I'll buy it. I mean, I think he probably has a multi-touchdown game in the next 4 games. And I think that sets him up right for, 10 touchdowns, which is crazy because Mike Williams even only did it once. He had another 9 touchdown season, but he only hit double digits once. That'd be super impressive from Quinton Johnston. But speaking of offensive weapons, let's talk about Stone Smartt, David, because I think we saw in that game against the Chiefs, we absolutely need to start seeing more Stone Smartt. So we're going to get into that, and if Jamari Sawyer should be replacing Trey Pipkins and more on today's Locked On Chargers podcast. First, I need to tell you guys to get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. And that's one of the things I absolutely love, because as a Charger fan, you definitely can get a sense of where a game is going, and I can definitely get that with the Chargers games. Even though with Jim Harbaugh, it's changing a little bit. They've definitely won some games I thought they were going to lose. But right now, the lines are already out for the Buccaneers game, and the Chargers are 2.5-point favorites. Your favorites in the game, get it done. And if you want action on that game, go to FanDuel and just visit FanDuel.com to join today, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Dave, let's continue getting into some of these buy or sells, including wanting some more Stone Smartt and wanting and loving what you saw from that playmaking ability that he showed in the second half against the Chiefs. But thank you to everyone for making us your first listen. As you guys continue to rock with us, especially after the tough games that the Chargers have in the ebbs and flows of the season, we always appreciate the everydayers more and more. So thank you for making us your first listen. If you need a second listen, check out the new slate at Locked On NFL if you want a bigger perspective of everything going around the league, with guys who bring on the people who cover their teams every day, like Tyler the Madman Rowland, and later on with my boy Tony Wiggins in the Barbershop on YouTube and wherever you get your podcast from. David, one of the things that the people were clamoring for in the buy or sell section today was more Stone Smartt, and I couldn't agree more, because I think they needed him even before Will Dissly got hurt, and depending on what that injury is, I think he still needs to remain in this lineup. Let's hear what Uncle Earl has for us this week.
Hey, Uncle Earl here from Kansas City calling. Buy or sell. Stone Smartt should get more snaps in at tight end after watching his productivity on Sunday against the Chiefs. I've been advocating for my guy all season long. I think he should get more snaps. Also, should Jamari Sawyer replace Trey Pipkins? Buy or sell. Jamari Sawyer will start at least one game this year for the Chargers.
Well, David, I think those are 2 great buy or sells. Let's start with the first one there about Stone Smartt, because I think if you just randomly saw that in the box score, a 3-catch, 54-yard performance, you'd be like, hey, that's a pretty good game. But that would be without the context of kind of what the Chargers have been missing at the receiving tight end position this year, as Will Dissly has been way over and above everything he should be. But still, there's a reason why he ranked last against man-to-man coverage. He's not the kind of athlete to beat it. Then you see a little gazelle like a Stone Smartt running around out there and jumping over defensive backs in the secondary. And to me, it's an easy buy. The Chargers need more Stone Smartt, not less.
Absolutely. It's definitely an easy buy for me. I think they've been looking for anybody to try to give them any kind of other production, especially from the tight end position. And, Stone Smartt has the ability to do that. I mean, I think he's made some great catches, especially up the seam. I think he's a weapon. He can go up and get it. He's not afraid to go up and do the contested catch situations. 3 catches on 3 targets for 54 yards is a good stat line, but 5 of his 6 catches on the season have gone for a first down. So to me, what that tells me is that not only is they targeting Stone Smartt to get those chunk plays, but pretty much every time he touches the football, he's moving the ball down the field, and he's moving those chains, which is definitely important. And with Will Dissly, being probably going to be out for a couple of games, at least that's what the reports are saying.
Yeah,
they're going to need somebody to come in and step in and provide that pass catching, productivity. And I think Stone Smartt has the skill set to be able to do that.
Yeah, he does, and he always has, right? And I mean, Stone Smartt, it's not to the extent of maybe a Donald Parham was, right? But like, it feels like there's potential there that's untapped. And we haven't been trying to, pull it out for as long as we were with Donald Parham, who obviously just had that freakish size too.
Yeah.
But like Will Dissly, as much as I love him, I mean, not a yards after the catch threat, right? That's something you get with a Stone Smartt. Like, he's not a guy that's going to win on those vertical routes like you can potentially get with Stone Smartt.
Yeah.
He's not going to be, like that play. I mean, the most impressive one to me was him coming back to the football, high pointing it over a defensive back on a great lofted ball by Justin Herbert, showing that trust in him. I thought that was totally huge. And I just think that the maybe most encouraging part was I thought he was a pretty decent blocker in the game too. Because you have to think that's the only thing keeping him off the field right now. There's no other reason you'd think a Tucker Fisk is out there running routes and not Stone Smartt. Sacrifice some of the blocking, even if, Will Dissly was to come back next week. Sacrifice some of the blocking to get a little bit more from the receiving options, especially if you're going to be running these jumbo packages, because he is a legitimate threat in those situations where Scott Matlock isn't, where Will Dissly isn't, where a Tucker Fisk isn't. So definitely more Stone Smartt, no matter what happens with Will Dissly, but hopefully he can come back soon. Let's get to the other part of this, David, the buy or sell. Jamari Sawyer will start one game this year. Do you think that's something? We'll put injuries aside, right? We'll start one game this year, not including if he's injured and just has to come in the game.
I know Jim Harbaugh loves his tackles, and I get it. He said he'd put a tackle at every single offensive line position, but to me, that experiment is done. I am sick and tired of watching Trey Pipkins not be able to handle the stunts and twists and get Justin Herbert hit and battered every single game. Okay, 47.9 pass block grade for Trey Pipkins, 4 penalties, 5 sacks, 22 pressures allowed. And honestly, it seems like it's a lot more than that. I mean, it really, really does to me. It just seems like
not all losses are considered pressure.
Right.
I think that's where some of it comes in. Like, you can lose a rep and not give up pressure, but it doesn't mean that you did good on that rep, if that makes sense.
Yeah, he just hasn't been comfortable out there. The experiment has run its course. There's been plenty of time to see that. I think Jamari is a more natural guard, with his size and thickness. That's why they bring him in on those short yardage situations when they need a little bit extra. They bring in Jamari Sawyer and they take him out. Well, let's just take out Trey Pipkins for an entire game. Let's put Jamari Sawyer in there and see what that looks like. I mean, hey, maybe it's one of these opponents where you feel like you can ground and pound and run the rock against. Maybe that's the type of game to put him in there. But, yeah, I'm ready to see it.
Yeah, and I totally understand it. I mean, right, he's already replaced him on short yardage situations, which is understandable because he's a little bit shorter, a little better leverage, a little bit more beef in the middle to be able to get a little bit more push. And one of the kind of more underrated, maybe underreported things is like they've been very, very good in those short yardage situations, especially those Justin Herbert quarterback sneaks. More, he seems like he's getting it every time. And if they don't get on third down, do it again on fourth down. You're probably going to get it. Yeah. So, I mean, and also, I mean, let's shout out Bradley Bozeman, man. I mean, he's had his struggles, but credit where credit's due. 0 pressures allowed him, 38 pass blocking snaps against that Kansas City Chiefs defense. I love it. That was awesome. Now, I'm selling that we're going to see him. I don't think we're going to see him. I think they're going to ride it out with Trey Pipkins. And obviously, you can want to see something different. The coaches see what they see. They're telling you that Trey Pipkins is the better fit there, and he's the better player right now in pass protection in those plays. But it doesn't mean you don't want to see someone else. But let's also kind of, not forget that Jamari Sawyer gave up the most sacks out of any guards in the NFL last year. Yeah. He gave up the 4th most pressures of any guard in the NFL last year. He got a full season to prove it, and he couldn't prove it. So he might be an improved player. He might be able to get out there. I'd be down to watch and see if that's the case. I just don't think we're going to. But let's get a theory in here at the end who has maybe a question about a little bit of regret by this Chargers front office and Jim Harbaugh.
Daniel, David, Ethel, Biosol Tuesday, and overreaction. Coach Harbaugh and Joe Hockey regret not making a trade at the deadline to add weapon on offense and hold on to the draft pick. I am buying it for now. What do you say, my boys? I love you. Thank you.
I love you. David, what do you think?
Well, I mean, if you look around the NFL and you look at the trades that have been made, there's really not been a lot of production from any of those guys except for one former Charger named Mike Williams, who has made a couple of big catches, in limited kind of capacity. But I don't know. I think that the Chargers tried to make moves. I think they wanted to make moves. They couldn't line up on anything. And so they had to go ride it out with what they had. I think they're confident, but obviously hindsight's always 20/20. And when you see some of those offensive draws and just completely, like just not having any type of success in any of these games, then yeah, I'm sure that, you'd want to go out there and try to add something to it. But nobody has really made any kind of big impact on a trade that's been made this offseason or this season.
I would say at least as far as what I looked up on the offensive side of things, right?
Yeah,
I didn't look up how every single defensive player that the Chargers wouldn't have gone for is doing after the trade deadline, but I did look up the offensive players. And you look at it, right? Deontay Johnson's already an outcast in Baltimore, right?
Yeah.
We know the Chargers checked in on him. There's a reason they didn't trade for him, right? Amari Cooper just had his first 5 reception game in 5 games for the Bills, and they traded a 3rd round pick for a rental for him, right?
Wow.
Mike Williams went for more than we thought he was going to go for. He has 4 catches in 5 games. Nice to see him making those Mike Williams catches in that last game. There's 3 goose eggs in there.
Yeah.
In 5 games. And we thought they overspent for him. So I maybe think that Joe Ortiz and Jim Harbaugh regret that there wasn't a deal to be made, because also there wasn't a single interior offensive lineman that got traded at the deadline.
Or tight end. Yeah.
Or tight end. You can only trade for what people were willing to trade for you. Could they have pushed harder? Could they have, made it an offer that they can't resist? Sure, but then it doesn't feel like you're winning that trade, right? Like if you're the one that's overspending for something, especially for a lot of 1-year rentals that were out there, I just don't think that was going to happen. But the in-season trades don't always go super well, and you're seeing that with guys like a Deontay Johnson, a Mike Williams, and Amari Cooper. Yeah, they might make big impact plays for them later on the season, but so far, 5 games since, it hasn't really been much. But that is going to wrap things up for today's show. If your buyer show didn't get on today's show, the good news is tomorrow we're getting into our Chargers mailbag. So you can hit us up again at LockedOnLAC and give us your question, or call into the voicemail line at 323-524-7924 and give us your 30-second Chargers question. And there's a good chance you get on the show. Until then, guys, to make sure you never miss the show, go subscribe or follow for free on the Locked On Chargers YouTube channel and listen wherever you get your podcast from, as well as finding us on our other social media on Instagram at Locked On Chargers, where we post the show every day, and our Locked On Chargers Facebook page as well. We are very excited. It's funny being more optimistic after a game like the Chiefs than you are against the Falcons, which you won. But I think there's a lot to be excited about with this team. The biggest thing is taking care of business this week against the Buccaneers, where you can almost totally solidify your playoff spot. If you can get it done, you only need 1 more win in the next 3 games. So let us know what you guys want to talk about tomorrow, because it is Chargers mailbag. But until then, guys, take it easy and go Bolts.